Jim Mordesky, and on behalf of the Kalamazoo Art League, I welcome you to the presentation by Mary Brodbeck. As I was telling her, I've been admiring her work for years, and am so excited to see this presentation. I think it's appropriate. Spring is such an interesting time of year for art because it reflects both the art that we create, but also the human condition, our place sort of in the cycle of things in creating art. I want to thank the Kalamazoo Institute of Art staff, Michelle and all the staff, but Jennifer in particular, who is recording the presentation. I want to thank Greenleaf Hospitality and the Kalamazoo Country Club, who are sponsoring the reception afterwards. Chef Ryan cannot be here, but he put together a reception that reflects his interpretation of the kind of work that you do in art. So it will be interesting to see how that matches up. And Sharon, I don't know if you want to say a few words about what he developed for the theme of the reception.
Yes, just a minute or two. I was going to just before we read the reception, but we can do it now.
Come on up.
We have a food as art concept that the KAL is introducing, and Greenleaf Hospitality and Chef Ryan through Kalamazoo Country Club have generously and enthusiastically jumped in on this idea that chefs are artists. And so they made a presentation at the American Federation of Chefs. The chefs there said, when can we help? And so today, in honor of Mary and her art, Chef really thought through. And there's 3 different dishes that are not only representative of Japanese cuisine, but the technique of the food in making it. There's a potato pate that has layers that looks like the layering of wood. So there's a fuller explanation of it that you can see names of the different dishes, all intended to honor Mary's art and that whole cuisine, Japanese cuisine, as it relates to that. So look for future speakers, and we hope to have the relationship of the development of food as art concept along with the speaker's theme. So thank you.
I just want to point out that there's lots of interesting things happening in KIA as well. The current exhibits are really exciting. If you have not been to them, you should check them out. The Infinite Constellation of Love is an amazing presentation sourced from the zoo and the young artists. And then check out our upcoming events, if you would, on the website. Dr. Margaret Miller is our next speaker about plundered art, which is a very interesting topic right now and for all of us. And then we do have an upcoming departure to Detroit, a trip, and I'm going to turn it over to David Brose to give you some information about that. But that is an exciting trip that I grew up in Detroit, and I am really excited about going back and seeing some of these things. So, David.
Thank you, Jim, and welcome. Do I need the microphone, or can you all hear me? I do need the microphone. How's this? Okay. We're going to see some of the architectural wonders that have made Detroit a great American city. And I would like to introduce you to my great departures committee. If you will please step up. These are the places we're going to go see. They're going to talk for themselves, as often happens.
We'll be visiting the Detroit Public Library. If you guys have not seen the inside of the Detroit Public Library, it is a Michigan treasure. It has Puatic tiles, amazing Detroit themed miracles, and miraculous architecture. Very beautiful. We have a special tour of it too, just for us.
All right, we're also going to go see the Detroit Institute of Arts. If you haven't been there, oh my goodness, this is the time to go. It's very beautiful. So, voted best art museum in the U.S. by USA Today readers.
Just a second. Okay. We're going to the Guardian. It's one of the most famous skyscrapers in the world. I had no idea. I'm looking forward to it. I hope some of you will be coming. Oh, they did it backwards.
And we're going to finish up. I'm sorry. Thank you, Dan. With the Michigan Central Terminal. When I was a kid growing up in Detroit, this was a wide railroad station. Used to go down there to watch the trains come through. It served for 20 years as the hallmark of what they call ruin porn. People would take pictures of destroyed buildings in downtown Detroit. This was always one of the ones they featured because it was such a magnificent Beaux-Arts building gone to ruin. It's back. It's been restored. We're going to go through it. We're going to take a look at one of the most iconic railroad stations outside of New York's Grand Central Station. So there are sign-up sheets out in front. The trip is definitely going on May 20th. We'll have a nice bus trip. We'll have nice snacks. We're going to see some of the architectural wonders that make Detroit a surprising city. Many of you have been there and don't know these structures or the buildings. You'll be amazed and you'll be pleased, and we'll be glad to welcome you. Thank you. And there's always room for volunteers on our committee.
The workers.
We've met our minimum requirement, so if you want to come, we've got room. You can sign up as late as May 5th.
No, you need them now.
You need them now. But yeah, just because we had an earlier deadline that we had to meet to get the bus reserved, we've met that deadline. So please let us know if you want to come, and we'd love to have you join us.
Good morning. It's really great to see such a fabulous turnout this morning. Today's speaker was one of the first people I met in Kalamazoo, and the other first people I met in Kalamazoo are also in the audience. So that feels kind of special to me. I'm really happy to introduce you to today's speaker, Mary Brodbeck. She started her professional career as an industrial designer, earning patents for her innovative designs, and built a successful career in that field for over a decade. So she's got a whole life you guys may not know about. Driven by a passion for art, she transitioned into the fine arts, ultimately earning an MFA in art from Western Michigan University. Mary is now a distinguished artist renowned for her evocative woodblock prints that capture the beauty and complexity of the natural world. Her work, particularly her stunning depictions of the Great Lakes, brings to life the ever-changing landscapes and tranquil waters through intricate craftsmanship and an eye for color. Mary's artistic journey took a transformative turn in the late 90s when she received the prestigious Bunkacho Fellowship to learn traditional Japanese woodblock printing techniques from Yoshiko Funisaka. Thank you. I knew I could get that part right. In Tokyo. Yoshisuke Funisaka. During a time when access to information on this art form was very limited because it wasn't on the internet, there weren't a lot of printed books, her experience in Japan not only honed her technical skills, but deepened her understanding of the delicate balance between nature and technique. Her prints continue to reflect her profound connection to the environment, blending traditional methods with her own innovative vision. Mary's also known for the documentary Becoming Made, which offers an intimate look at the creative process, following artists who work in traditional Japanese mokuhanga printmaking style. This film captures the essence of the art form, showcasing the dedication, creating, and process involved in creating these beautiful works of art. I've admired Mary's work for years, and I'm so excited that she's here with us today, and hopefully you'll learn something new from her. So Mary Brodbeck.
Good morning. That was such a fabulous introduction. I hope I can live up to all that.
I forgot the last thing. So
Yeah, I got it.
you should absolutely see her work in her studio, but also she has no cards available for sale, and a gift shop here that opens at 11.
Yes, thank you, Kat. That was a fabulous introduction. And thank you all, many familiar faces. I know probably half to 3/4 of you that are here. I really appreciate your time and interest in coming this morning. It's a pleasure to be here and a joy to present a survey of my career, basically. Usually when I give presentations, it's about the process. So this is completely different. This is about me and my career. This is this title slide, this first slide shows my current work. This is just a couple of my recent pieces. My subject matter is pretty much the 47th parallel, Northern Michigan and Ontario. Like I said, this is a survey, so I'm going to start at the very beginning. I was born in near Lake Odessa, Michigan, and I grew up on a dairy farm. It's only about 50 miles as a crow flies from here, but it's not on the way to anywhere. So that's our farm. I think that picture was taken in the 1960s. That's me on my pony, Dolly, also in the 1960s. When I saw that picture, I thought, oh my God, I was such a big kid. I was like 9 years old, and I was like shocked for like 2 or 3 days putting this presentation together how big I was, and then it finally dawned on me that's a really small pony. So yeah, that was me. There was one of 7 children. I was in the middle, which was kind of a lucky break because I kind of got lost in the crowd just a little bit, and I don't know if you can notice or not, but I also have a dog sitting on my lap there. So yeah, I was a farm kid, and I wore it on my sleeve for a really long time. I was really proud of where I came from. And as you can see, there's no saddle, there's no shoes. I was just really into nature and being a farm kid. I loved it. And then the picture on the left is, shows a little map of where Lake Odessa is. And also, I always loved Michigan. I always loved the shape of Michigan and the shape of the Great Lakes. When I first graduated from college from Michigan State, I majored in industrial design. Well, one of my interests as a kid, I was interested in art and music and the industrial arts, which means wood shop and mechanical drawing, architectural drawing. So I went to Michigan State, got a Bachelor of Fine Arts degree in industrial design, which translates into product design, or anything, products made by industry. When I first graduated, I moved out to LA, and I was there for a few months, and then I realized in order to stay and thrive in LA, I just couldn't be that farm kid anymore, and I really liked who I was. So I came back, and that's when I got my first big girl job in my industry. I got a job at Hayworth. It's a furniture company. You may have heard the name Hayworth. The 3 big furniture companies in West Michigan: Hayworth, Steelcase in Grand Rapids, and Herman Miller in Zealand. I was in the right place at the right time. I got hired in, although to hire me in, they had to create a position lower than everyone else. You know, a little bit of gender bias maybe, but that was typical. I mean, we all went through that, right? And another thing I might mention too is, you know, that's me on the left. Those are both pictures of me in there. On the left, I worked on a signage program. My name was Mary Lou when I was growing up, all the way through. I was Mary Lou. When I got to the corporation, it gave people pause. So I dropped the Lou and just became Mary. Yeah, there's a signage project I worked on, and the picture on the right, I'm a few years older. I'm probably about 30 on the picture on the right, and I'm leaning up against a shelf I designed or something, a countertop. These were, I worked in this, the industry made cubicles, like cubbies and work surfaces that hung off panels. I was just given, most of the time I was just given projects to work on. And sometimes we were in teams, and that person I'm standing with, his name was Gary Smith. And I actually went to Michigan State with him. He was a great, great guy. And I was working with him on a project one time, and suddenly just like looks at me, and he said, "Mary, where did you come up with that idea?" And I said, "Well, common sense, I guess." And he said, "No, you have rare sense." And, you know, that kind of stuck with me. You know, this guy was an ally. He was a real friend. And I'll talk about him later in my presentation. One of the things that I worked on in the corporation at Hayworth, like I mentioned, they made cubicles, and everything was a rectangle. All the work surfaces were rectangles. The panels were rectangles. It was a bit like a maze. And I took a little bit different approach on this idea. It was called wraparound work surfaces, where things were more feminine, just different than square. And plus it worked ergonomically. And changing the shape of the work surface was really relatively easy to do, because all you had to do is change the programming. You can still, you know, you didn't have to make any molds or anything like that. You just had to cut a different shape in the wood. So this was something that wasn't assigned to me. This is something that I sort of invented on the side and proposed it, and they didn't make it. They sat on it. And until one of our competitors came out with something very similar. Steelcase came out with a very similar product line. And then, you know, I heard somebody say, "Oh, we already thought of that." And it's like, yeah, we already thought of that. So they produced it after that. Some of my influences as an industrial designer were these folks, Victor Papanek, Buckminster Fuller, and the artist and sculptor Noguchi. Some of the things that I was very interested in was, like I mentioned, something other than a cube. And I was just really interested in things that were more creative and based on, I discovered, you'll see in the next slide, a 3-point construction, a triangular construction. And these were some of my influences. Noguchi especially, I mean, that's a table, but it doesn't have 4 legs. I mean, it is so incredibly creative and so beautiful, and it has so much soul. I can't say that the other ones had as much soul, but, you know, definitely the Noguchi table and his work was, you know, like really out there and really, in my mind, really beautiful. And that table is produced by Herman Miller. It's still in production. It was originally produced in 1947. This was the triangular construction that I became obsessed with. It's a little bit hard to, you almost need a animation to really see how this all works, but basically you could have 3 workstations with 3 panels, so it's an efficient use of materials, and then you could rearrange it into different kinds of shapes that were different and friendly, in my opinion, friendlier. So I look at this now and I think, I could really start working on this again. It really excites me. I don't think this was really taken as far as it should have been, or it could have been. So by this time, again, this is a survey I've been working. I'm not showing everything that I did. But by this time I was at Hayward 5 or 6 years. And I was in that lower position, like I mentioned. And I thought, when they see this, it's coming up to my review. When they see this work, they're gonna, I'm gonna advance to like where everybody else is. And I got to the review and they told me I wasn't a team player. So I quit. I was mad, but I also, at this point, being from a farm, like a first generation college graduate, so really my father, he told me his great goal for me was to marry a preacher. And I was doing this with no mentors, with no role models. I kind of impressed myself. And so I quit, but I didn't, I quit at it, yes, a little bit of anger, but also I was just curious if I didn't have constraints, if I wasn't working for anybody else, what could I come up with? I mean, it's like, I was really involved. I was just really in love with creativity, like invention. And I wanted to have freedom. This was a quote, I didn't know about this quote at the time, but it kind of, I had this in my last newsletter that I sent out, and I got a lot of comments, because things can be pretty frustrating sometimes. And you want to know, what can I do? How do I fix this? And I thought this was a really good quote, and it kind of resonated with where I was, and that I just wanted to do something that was true to me. So I decided to become an artist, and I did. I should mention too, at this time, so I'm like 31, I was unmarried. So I still had to live in the world, right? Pay rent and all that. Well, I saved money. So I had enough money to live for about 3 years before, something had to come. I had to go back to work again or something. So the first year, one of the first things I did was I made these self-portraits. And of course, everybody says, "Oh, Mary, you're so much more beautiful than that." And it's like, well, that's kind of not the point. It's pretty common for artists to do self-portraits. And so I guess I was doing these to really explore emotion in my work. I don't know, as a furniture designer, it's all practical and all that, but there really was no feeling. And of course, a mirror and me, I'm a cheap model. So I did a number of these self-portraits. I did my first woodblock print in a class that I took at Oxbow. This was still in 1990. And the teacher there, the way he told us to design the print was he had Sumi ink in a, whatever. We could have it in a can, and we had brushes. He said, just go out and draw something in black and white. And then, actually, I think we just drew it right on the block. And then we'll cut out the white shapes, and then the black shapes will be what is left, and then we can make a print of it. So this is the very first one that I did, and this was in 1990. I didn't make a lot of more prints after that. I was at the time a little bit more interested in industrial drawing, and one project that I gave myself was to travel around the perimeter of Michigan and make sketches. So I threw my tent in my car, took my cat over to my parents' house, and camped and around the perimeter of Michigan. And these are some of the images that I did at that time. I didn't get all the way up to the Keweenaw Peninsula in the upper Michigan and the upper peninsula because I had a friend was getting married, and I didn't quite make the circumference, but I came back home. And then eventually, time goes by, I had to go back to work to make some money. This was 3 years after I left Hayward. I got another job at Steelcase. And this time I wasn't an employee, I was a consultant. So it was a little higher level, put it that way. And this was a project that was wonderful. It was a whole series of tables that had interchangeable. Well, the user wouldn't know that the legs were interchangeable, but the specifier had the opportunity to design, put the parts and pieces together to design different tables, whatever kind of table they wanted, with different shapes of tops, different colors, different edge profiles, different legs, different feet on the legs. And I worked on this project. I was very happy with it. I worked on a few other projects with Steelcase and another project with a company called Newcraft. And by this time, around this time, 93, 94, I married my husband and moved to Kalamazoo. Prior to this, I was living in Saugatuck, Douglas. And my husband was and is such a great guy. He, so in love with me, loves my work, loves my art. And so he was very supportive. I said, Mary, you got to get back into your art. And, so when there was a break in, the jobs I had, it's like, well, okay. And there was Western Michigan University here, right? With that time a master's degree, I could get a master's degree there. So I took up the offer from my husband, and I hit the road. I went right up to where I left off on that first time I went around the perimeter of Michigan, and this time right where I ended, and it was the Keweenaw Peninsula. And this is so I took a solo trip up there in order to make preparation sketches for prints that I would be making in graduate school. And this is one of those prints. This is actually in Copper Harbor. Copper Harbor is the furthest point north in Michigan. And this image was taken, I actually took a photograph. This is an image from a photograph that I took. This was the snow on, the shape of the snow on Memorial Weekend. I'll skip forward a little bit now and say that this is where we live in. My husband and I spend most of our time in Calumet, Michigan. And Calumet, Michigan is in the Keweenaw, halfway up, and it has the most snow of any place in the Midwest. Right now, they have 47 inches on the ground. So, and the other thing I might mention is that my husband is just as crazy about the North Country as I am. That may be one of the reasons why we got married. So I took this print was, I think it was finished in my first semester at Western Michigan University. And I handed it in basically. And my professor, Curtis Rhodes, looked at it. And this is part of a series. There was maybe 4 or 5 like this. And he goes, "So Mary, how would you like to go to Japan?" And I thought, oh, I like Noguchi. I was drawing with Sumi ink. I hadn't really admired, looked at, really paid much attention to the Japanese woodblock prints. I certainly knew about them, but the thing about the Japanese process is it was all different materials. And I was really interested in the watercolor process. Also, the Japanese soul. I don't know how to describe it. I still don't know how to describe it, but Noguchi had it. And that was something that I was very interested in. So about this time also, I got a call from my friend Carrie Smith at Herman Miller. "Mary, you gotta come work for me." He had left Hayworth and became the design director at Herman Miller. And it's like, "Oh no, Gary, it's too late." And he called again. But I said no, I stayed on my path. And Dick DePoe, another professor at Western, he was the person that knew the Funisaka in Japan and contacted him. And I don't know how this all happened, but Funisaka then applied for a fellowship on my behalf from the Japanese government. So, voila, I was in Japan. About a year later, it took about a year for all that to kind of take place. Gotta see what I wrote here. I forgot what I wrote. Oh yes, so I was there for 5 months, and when I first got there, people said, "Oh, that's not long enough. That's not long enough. You'll never learn it all. It's not long enough." It's like, trust me, it was not long enough. Funisaka taught in someplace like the KIA Art School. It wasn't a university, it was like a cultural center. And so I went, there were a lot of retirees there, like our ages, which kind of drove me crazy because I was so serious. But I did it, I held out. I stayed there for 5 months, and I've been friends with Funisaka ever since. Got my degree then a year later from Western Michigan University. Like I said, a lot of my, actually I don't know if I mentioned this or not, I've been talking to so many people. A lot of my presentations are about the process, because people want to know, what is this and how did you make it? This presentation is not that. Just a little bit though about the process. Woodcuts are made, you can call them woodcuts, woodblock prints. They're made by carving out the non-image area from a block of wood. And then when you ink it, you get the impression from the raised areas that are left. And you can see that the print ends up being a mirror image, like your hand would be a mirror image. This is an early woodblock print from Japan. It was a bodhisattva. A lot of the early prints were religious images. So the thing about color prints is that if you want to make a color print, it has to be like a separate color area on a block. And if you can make the leap with me, maybe you'll understand that these are lots of parts and pieces that go together to make something, which was kind of my inclination to build things, rearrange things, put them together. So this just really suited my personality. And I was really interested in the landscape as a subject matter. So it was like I found my true north. These are the tools. The tools are not that much different from Western processes, except that you apply the inks to the blocks with brushes instead of rollers. And then you press the back of the paper with a handheld burnishing tool called Baron. You don't use a printing press. Okay, I'm skipping about 5 years. Well, that's really like how long it took to kind of hone my skills. I don't know, about 10,000 hours, it's true. It takes about 10,000 hours to get good at this. This was part of a Lake Superior series. My husband and I rode a tandem bicycle around Lake Superior. I was in a sailboat that went around the circumference of Lake Superior. I was obsessed with Lake Superior, and that was my subject matter for years. This was a little bit of a breakout print. It was on the cover of a lot of magazines and that kind of thing. It's in a couple of museum collections. And the picture on the right is Fritz Seegers, Brent Spink, and myself during our sailing trip. The really fun part about being an artist was like all the adventures that I got to take to capture, to find my material. I will say that this was sort of a breakout print to me, but it still had this little bit of a look like it was a puzzle, like all the parts and pieces kind of fit together like a puzzle. And I wanted to like do a little bit more with that, and also see if I could express more emotion. A few years later, I would say this is another breakout print. This is called Strata. This is about half the size of the other ones. And this was from a Sleeping Bear Dunes artisan residency at the National Lakeshore Park. Again, I worked with, I don't always work with photographs. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. This one I did use the photograph on the right to make the print on the left. And as you can see, I took some liberties. I do think this one shows more emotion. And also, I might add that by this time, and for a few years, I'd been represented by galleries in Michigan, Synchronicity Gallery in Glen Arbor, and Good Goods Gallery in Saugatuck. My Lake Superior prints were really admired, and they sold once in a while. But it wasn't until I made the Sleeping Bear Dune prints that the sales really kind of took off. And this print in particular is probably, I've sold more. I make editions of 40, and these are all gone, plus proofs. I have one left that I'm like saving and never show. So my life was making prints and selling them in galleries, and a lot of times taking adventures along the way. I did do some teaching, and that then became part of my life. In particular, the teaching was great also. I say was, I'm still doing it. It took me to different parts of the country, California, Oregon, lots of places. And I taught at Japan Center for Michigan Universities in Hikone, Japan. This was also a very popular print, successful print. And that is the class that I took to an exhibition in Tokyo on that same journey. In 2011 through 2014, I made a documentary film. This might sound weird, but besides the clusters project that I designed, I think this is probably my greatest achievement. I thought this film was, I'm really, really proud of this film. So if you want to learn more about the process, you can see this film by going to my website. It's free for the public, for home use. In the film, one of the things that I ask, Funisaka is in the film as well as a lot of different artists that work in this medium. I asked Funisaka what his influences were, and the answer was, well, let me predicate this with, Funisaka didn't speak much English, and he certainly spoke more English than I spoke Japanese. So I basically learned this process by watching. I didn't have any soulful conversations about what the art meant. So when I did this documentary, I had an opportunity, a little bit of a window to ask, maybe dig deeper and with the translator. So I asked Funisaka what his influences were, and he said John Ruskin. And I'd heard that before, or read that before or something. So then I started researching John Ruskin, who is he and what did he say? And I found this quote by John Ruskin that I thought was perfect. It says the highest reward for a person's toil is not what they get by it, but what they become by it. And it was perfect. So the whole film, Becoming Made, is not just about the art, the woodblock print being made, but it's about how the person evolves through the process of their work, whether it's, no matter what it is. I had another residency in Glen Arbor, and this was, actually the residency was in 2009, but I didn't get to this until later. And by now I think I'm kind of getting into what I think is, my soulful work, I guess. It's called Presence. This is my husband's all-time favorite piece. In 2018, I had a residency at the Sitka Center for the Arts, and that's on the coast of Oregon. And this is the print that I have here today. And I also have the blocks that I used to print this. In 2020, I developed a small note card business on the side. But in 2020, I really took it to the next level. And I decided to work in series of 4 and then make that series of 4 into a mini portfolio. And then it would be, accompanying it would be haiku poems. And these are my note cards. And this one in particular, it's called True North. I also have them defined as volumes, like volumes of books. This is volume 7. And this is by far my best-selling note card set. I think just because it's true, it's following what I was interested in, and it's images of what I believe to be true. Actually, the first title for this was called Boreal, but it didn't have quite a nice ring to it, so it was changed to True North. This is one of those images from that set. This is my husband, that little guy is my husband, skiing in where we live, Calumet. During the pandemic, started going to, we were no longer able to go to the cabin, our cabin in Canada, which I'm not really talking too much about in this presentation. But this is another small series of prints that were captured on a lake in the Upper Peninsula. It's a water lily set. This is actually my favorite set. I want this. I want these prints on my wall. I don't have them, but I would like them someday. I'm like you, they're expensive. And this is a close-up. That's the wrong title, I'm sorry. This is called Awake. Currently, as I mentioned, my mentor and I are still in communication. He has been here a few times. I've been there a few times, having joint exhibitions. This is a joint exhibition that we're having with KRESA. And it was Mary Wayland. She's here. Is Mary here? She was the one that put this together. She sent me this photo. It's a teaching aid for students in the Kalamazoo area schools. Today, 1925 or 2025, my husband and I both spend a lot of times in those triangles up north. The one on the left is where Calumet is. The one on the upper right, that's where our cabin is. I make a lot of images of our cabin. Oh, actually, there's one coming up. And then, and of course, Kalamazoo. We still have our condo here. And that's the end. That's that. So that image on the left there, that is from our cabin. That's from a new series called Shoreline, and that's me being my true self in Calumet. So I do have an example here in French print here, the blocks I mentioned, and I also have some scrapbooks if you're interested in any of those, peeking at any of those. But meanwhile, I'm happy to take any questions. Yes?
What kind of wood do you use? Do you have preference to different types of woods?
I use the easiest wood that I can find, and it's specially formulated. It's called Sheena plywood, and it's made from the linden tree. It's not very good for furniture because it's so soft, but it's a closed grain, and when it's made into a plywood, it is less likely to warp. So that's the wood that I use, and it's made in Japan and shipped here. I don't know how much longer this will be accessible. I get all my supplies from a company in Portland called McLean's Printmaking Supplies. Well, just about all of them. I used to be able to order a lot of things online directly from Japan, but that might all change too. I don't know. See, fortunately, I have a lot in stock, a lot of paper, a lot of wood in stock, so I'm good for a while. Yes, Daryl.
I'm a super fan, but what you've done is you've taken the engineering, right? And you've taken almost sculpture, because you're creating that, and then printmaking. I mean, you coordinated all of those things. I know you learned it, but to have all of those talents, Mary, it's amazing, I think. And to be able to put them together and create what you do is phenomenal. So I guess it's not a question.
Oh, well, that's a compliment. Thank you. Thank you.
For your art.
Thank you. Yes.
Gary, what happened to Gary?
Oh, what happened to Gary? I don't know. You know, I was asking my husband, we lived, okay, so this was like 1997 or something like that. And I had moved from Douglas to Kalamazoo, and I was thinking, how did he get my number? And it was like, remember 555-1212? He must have just looked me up or, picked up the phone. And I haven't looked him up, actually. I know that he was head of Herman Miller Design for a long, long time. I think he's retired now, though. Yes.
Hi, very wonderful presentation.
Thank you.
The piece that really sticks with me is how you focused on your own true self and how young you were when you realized that that's what you wanted to pursue. That was fabulous.
Well, thank you.
And it shows through all of your work.
Thank you.
It's amazing.
Okay, I guess does anybody else want to say anything? I mean, do you want to wrap it up?
Other than your faggot.
Well, we still have a few minutes, so let's just make this real intimate, and I'll stand up here by my table here and I can talk to you individually. How's that?